bring you up to date with all the stories making the front page of the papers today.
The Eye covers the escalating train strikes, with thousands to be balloted again over a new tactic to increase the number of major walkouts across the network.
The Mail has an exclusive. Union Barons have launched a loyalty card scheme for strikers designed, it claims, to artificially swell picket line numbers.
The Telegraph says the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst is today urged to tackle an allegedly toxic culture of sexual assault embedded within the institution.
And the Express says thousands of vulnerable cancer patients are being stranded in isolation without support during the cost of living crisis.
The Guardian says that hundreds of voluntary organisations have been forced to shut or scale back operations because of government delays in replacing EU funding. It's time to go through the papers now, and joining us this morning is political editor of Sunday People, Nigel Nelson, and former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. And this is a very exciting morning for us all at GBNEWS, because, Claire and Nigel, you are a real-life couple, and you've never done the newspaper review together.
Yeah. And you have quite different political views.
And we have different political views as well.
We do.
So we're expecting it to kick off.
We'll do our best.
So keep us apart.
Superb. But it's great to see, though, that on a serious note, before we move on, that within a relationship, different political views can coexist, and we can disagree but still live with each other, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about politics endlessly because we both work in politics. We disagree a lot, but we've never ever fallen out over politics.
Well, the morning is young. So let's move on, Claire. Let's kick off with you to the Eye, and this is about the fresh strike ballots plan. What's going on?
Now, this is a plan from the unions to go about strikes in an even more fascist manner, if I can say that, by increasing the amount of strikes that we have. As if we've not suffered enough with continual walkouts, this is now going to ballot individuals, so it could be station staff, it could be controllers, it could be tube workers. So each time, a different group will be balloted on strike action. So you could end up with continual rolling strikes going through from the different parts of the service.
Call me a cynic. Is this different unions operating in isolation so they can maximise the impact and cause the most misery?
That is precisely what it is. So, as I say, as if we've not suffered enough, you could then turn up to a station and find that train drivers are working, but station staff aren't, or signallers aren't. So your service is still going to be particularly affected. It's going to be very, very poor, right at the time where we need it to come back to some kind of normality.
Do you think we're heading towards a general strike? Is that where this is all going?
You can't have a general strike, so it won't be that. That would be against the law if they did that. However, what you will have is more coordinated strikes, which is what this is designed to do. This will be our first disagreement this morning, because I believe in the right to strike and Claire doesn't. So yes, the idea of coordinated walkouts is on the cards. And again, if you, regardless of each individual dispute and what you think about them, if you believe in the right to strike, surely you must believe also they have to be effective. If that's the most effective way of doing it.
But that brings us neatly onto your story, the Daily Mail front page, the strike map. This is union barons encouraging people to go on multiple picket lines to get prizes, rewards. This is basically looking like a flying picket to me, banned by Margaret Thatcher in 1990, Nigel.
It would be if they broke the law, that's right, flying pickets are banned. And it does sound a bit like sort of, nectar cards for turning up on a picket line, double points if you stoke a brazier or something like that. Actually, what it is, the prize is in fact be a free T-shirt. It's not that great a prize at the end of it. But the idea is to encourage people to go on picket lines. Now, nothing illegal about that. You or I could join a picket line were you so inclined. So the idea of actually encouraging people into picket lines, no bad thing. It's not, although the Daily Mail's got quite worked up about this, I think it's perfectly okay.
No bad thing. So it's no bad thing to encourage people out onto a picket line to enforce complete chaos on millions of passengers for a free T-shirt. So you could have a free T-shirt that said, "I caused rail chaos," and walk around proudly with it, and you see no problem with that.
Is it like
and I
every
think
day at your breakfast table?
Pretty much. I find this so abhorrent that you can think that it is a good idea to encourage people to do this.
But it's perfectly legal to go on a picket line. So
I'm not suggesting
if you want to join a
isn't.
picket line and show your support for striking workers, nothing to prevent you. If they want to give the odd prize to go out there and you fancy a new T-shirt, I don't see too much wrong with this.
Before we move on to the next story, this idea that flying pigs were banned by Margaret Thatcher in 1990, I'm a son of a coal miner. Hello, Dad, he's watching. Love you. And, you know, we saw what Scargill did to the pits. Is Mick Lynch proving to be the Scargill of our era? Is the public running out of sympathy with him? Because I think they are. I think we've worked around the train strikes quite comfortably. And is it not time, Claire, as a Conservative, as somebody who wants to put the boot in, is it not time that Mick Lynch got it in the neck from Rishi Sunak?
Well, absolutely should. And there is a bill currently going through Parliament that will have a minimum requirement for service on railways. But it needs to be much stronger. This needs to have come a lot quicker. And unfortunately, what we haven't seen is that kind of determination from the Prime Minister to get this done. As you say, as Margaret Thatcher did, she was very adamant that this was how she was going to react. We haven't seen that at the moment. I'm hoping that in the new year, given all of the chaos that we're just about to go through, Rishi Sunak comes out and is a lot stronger on the unions, and quickly.
What do you think, Nigel? 2023?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that the unions will oppose it, and quite rightly so. There's not much point having a strike if they don't work. So what the government should be doing is sitting down and negotiating the new pay deal. That I don't think it's acceptable to be offering people 3 and 4% when inflation is knocking 10%. So if the government sat down and talked about it, I'm not suggesting you get an inflation rise, but simply that you actually talk about some kind of settlement. That's what the government won't do, and that would be a way of actually stopping these strikes.
OK, Claire, moving on now to the front page of today's Times. Prevent, the government's counter-terrorism scheme, long been criticised, and there's a fallout between Braverman and Gove because they can't name certain organisations for fear of being called Islamophobic.
And I think there is your real problem. This is a report that has been a long time in the making. William Shawcross, who is the author of the review, has put it together, and now there is a row going on between the Home Secretary and Michael Gove, the Head of Communities, whose remit the Prevent scheme falls under. And he wants that report to be out there in full. He thinks that we need to get that published as soon as possible. There is this problem with the Home Office wanting to redact certain parts of the information in case it's...
Why would they do that? Because they're trying to prevent offending organisations, which is proven to be a part of the problem.
But the Prevent programme as a whole has been problematic, and I think we can all see that. It was one of those schemes that was set up, and it was very laudable in its aims to begin with. It was set up under Tony Blair. But unfortunately, if you don't have buy-in from the communities that are the major part of this programme, you're going to struggle to get this through. And I think this is what it came up against, was people thought it was a racist piece of propaganda targeting Islamic cultures.
Which is nonsense, because it happened to be an issue within that community.
Absolutely.
Surely it needs to be targeted.
Absolutely, and I think this is always your problem. If you cannot sell it into those communities by saying we need your help, we need your assistance, but you promote it as you must do this to stop Islamist terrorists coming into Britain, coming and radicalising our teenagers. And I think that was the problem. It was packaged so badly that those communities felt very offended, as by saying we aren't the problem and we're not going to help you, the government is racist. And I think you never change that narrative. And now what we're having is an argument over some semantics and some names going out in a report, which I absolutely do think need to be published. And I think the public who pay for this scheme And people that have attended it need to understand the communities involved, they need to understand the charities and groups involved in this. So it absolutely must go out as soon as possible.
And there's an issue, of course, about public money going to some of these charities, and if public money is being used to counter the interests of the British public, Nigel, that surely there's a public interest in that.
Yeah, well, of course there is. But I do agree with Claire, by the way, that the report should go out. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, certainly the report should be published. There's been a lot of criticism of Prevent on the grounds it might be discriminatory, and as Claire's pointed out, some organisations won't take part in it. But broadly, the idea of it is very good. That's why the report should go out there so they can have another look at it and make sure it actually works.
We've got time for one more?
Yeah, we do. Claire, let's have a look at...
Nigel's got one.
No, Nigel's... Let's go with you, shall we? What do you want, diets or...
Hey, let's do diets. Yeah, why not? It's Christmas and we'll put on a few pounds.
Yeah, let's talk about diets and the times.
Well, I consider this story vindication for not doing any diets. That what the Times is saying is that if you go and try out these fad diets, what it eventually does is make you fatter in the long run. So anything that promises sort of instant weight loss probably won't work. And what you should do is actually report them, according to the Times, to the Advertising Standards Authority. So broadly the advice is don't look for quick fixes, don't go on boiled egg diets or water diets, which sound revolting anyway. Just carry on getting gently fat.
I was about to say the boiled egg diet, I'm hoping won't catch on in the Purcell Nelson house. That could make for an unpleasant life.
You're absolutely right, and it won't.
but don't we have this subject coming up every single year when it comes up to New Year? Everybody's overindulged at Christmas because that's what it's about. You come to the New Year and everybody suddenly wants to start exercising and start drinking water every 2 minutes. And we know that it doesn't work. And you need to have the willpower and you need to reduce your calorie intake and increase your activity level. It isn't really that difficult. It's just really uncomfortable and unpleasant, and we don't like doing it.
Are you one of those wives that kind of cracks the whip on the diets in the household?
Do you know what? It's absolutely pointless.
Yeah.
I have to hide certain foods because at 3 in the morning there will be a chocolate run down to the kitchen.
Can't miss the 3 in the morning chocolate run.
Nigel, you're a secret eater. No, brilliant to have you both on. Nigel and Claire, thank you very much. You're with us all morning as well.
Looking forward to the next run. Okay, well, let's